At Christmas dinner, Dad yelled, "You're a burden and we don't want you here anymore." The next morning, when I packed my bags and they realized I was paying most of their bills, Dad suddenly... I was 28 years old when my father looked me dead in the eye across the turkey and cranberry sauce and told me I was ruining his life. To understand how we got there, you need to know the setup. 2 years ago, my parents were drowning. Dad's business took a massive hit, and Mom's part-time income barely covered groceries. I was doing well as a software engineer, so when they hinted at losing the house, I made a quiet sacrifice. I gave up my apartment in the city and moved back into my childhood bedroom. The official narrative Dad spun to the rest of the family: I was struggling. I needed a place to land. He was doing me a favor by letting me stay. I let him keep his ride. I didn't correct my aunts and uncles when they gave me pitying looks, but behind closed doors I took over. I set up auto pay for the mortgage. I covered the electric, the water, the internet, and the family cell phone plan. Dad handed me a few $100 a month and called it pitching in, convincing himself he was still the man of the house. I thought I was being a good son. I thought loyalty meant swallowing your ego for the people who raised you. Then came Christmas dinner. My older brother Mark was visiting with his new fiancée. Mark is the golden child, a corporate lawyer who drops in twice a year, brings expensive wine, and never lifts a finger. The drinks were flowing. The room was loud. I was exhausted from cooking half a meal while everyone else lounged by the tree. During dinner, Mark joked about my living situation. "Still sleeping in the twin bed, little bro? When are you going to launch?" I bit my tongue, but Dad laughed. A loud, mean, drunken laugh. "He's comfortable," Dad sneered, waving his fork at me. "Too comfortable. Doesn't pay real rent. Eats our food. It's exhausting, honestly." I froze. I looked at Mom, expecting her to intervene. She just took a sip of her wine and looked at her plate. "Dad," I said quietly, "let's not do this tonight." That was the wrong thing to say. His face turned red. "Don't tell me what to do in my own house!" Dad yelled, slamming his hand on the table. The silverware rattled. "I'm sick of looking at you. You're a burden, and we don't want you here anymore. You're dragging this whole family down." Silence fell over the dining room. Mark smirked. Mom stayed quiet. I looked at the man whose house I had been saving from foreclosure for 24 months. The emotional betrayal hit me like a physical punch to the gut. The sheer disrespect. The absolute delusion. I didn't yell back. I didn't cry. Something inside me just snapped, and it went ice cold. "Okay," I said. I stood up, calmly placed my napkin on the table, and walked upstairs. I didn't sleep that night. I packed everything I owned into garbage bags and duffels. But more importantly, I opened my laptop. With a few clicks, I canceled the autopay on their $200 mortgage. I transferred the internet and utility bills back into Dad's name. I removed my credit card from the family phone plan. I legally and financially severed myself from them before the sun even came up. By 7 a.m., I was loading my bags into my car. The front door opened, and Dad stepped out in his robe, clutching a cup of coffee. He had a smug look on his face, probably thinking I was just throwing a tantrum and moving to a motel for a few days. "Running away?" he scoffed. "You'll be back when you realize how expensive the real world is." I closed my trunk. I walked over and handed him a manila folder. "What's this?" he asked, frowning. "Reality," I said. Inside was a spreadsheet of every single bill I had paid for the last 2 years. The mortgage statements, the property taxes, the utilities. Next to it was the grand total, over 80 grand. I watched his eyes scan the numbers. I watched the smugness melt off his face, replaced by a sudden terrifying pale color. "The mortgage isn't paid for next month," I told him, my voice dead and empty. "The power bill is in your name now. The phones will shut off on Tuesday if you don't add a new card." "Wait," Dad stammered, the paper shaking in his hands. "Wait, this can't be right." "You can't just leave. We don't have the liquid cash for this right now." "You'll figure it out," I said, opening my car door. "You're the man of the house." "Son, please, let's just go inside and talk about last night." I had too much to drink. The desperation in his voice was pathetic. The father who roared like a lion last night was suddenly begging like a terrified child. I started the engine and rolled down the window one last time. "I can't stay, Dad," I said, looking right through him. "I wouldn't want to be a burden." I put the car in drive and pulled out of the driveway. I haven't looked back since.